Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert, working in educational institutions and companies, supporting family wellbeing challenges. And as you know, every week I interview different experts who make a difference. And today I'm super excited to be interviewing Robert. Hi, Robert.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm
Welcome.
really interested in hearing what you have to say about this. Can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. It's a real privilege to be on here. I've seen some of your other ones, and they're really good. So I suggest to everybody to check them out. So I put down I'm an international educator. So I've been in international education or education abroad for over 30 years now. And in that time, I think my average stay at some schools is about 2.5 years is my average stay at schools. So I'm jumping about all over the place. And the good thing about that is that I've managed to see lots and lots of different types of schools. And I think I've been in 6 or 7 different education systems.
Wow.
And so out of that, I've seen the differences for sure, but what I've seen is the similarities, which is really interesting, and the same problem again and again and again. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then so recently, I've come out of that for one reason or another. And in coming out of that, I've decided to do my own thing. And so that's why I've started up. I mean, years ago, I started up a non-profit organization called Developing Real Learners.
Okay.
And there's a group on LinkedIn which we get like 20 people joining the group every day. It's
wow.
crazy. I mean, and I haven't done anything on there. So I promised the members to start getting it to be exciting. It's up to nearly 25,000 members.
I think, with all of your experience, I'm sure you've got so much knowledge.
Yes. Well, maybe.
Sometimes
the more you know, the less you realize you don't understand.
That's true. But the more open you become, I think, as well. But you chose this title, Transforming Education by Developing Real Learners, and just what you were mentioning just then. So can you tell us what this means and why you chose it for today? I'm very intrigued.
It's a funny sort of thing. So I basically, with the whole of the leadership team, we had a nasty takeover in this school I was in Vietnam, and we left. Basically, everybody left, and so I thought, well, what shall I do? It was right at the end of the year, so what shall I do? That's quick, because I've got to earn a living. All of the jobs I've had, they haven't been these wonderfully well-paid jobs. That I've gone to where I wanted to go rather than, chasing the money. So, so I've got to earn something, and so I thought, well, how about coaching teens? Because that's one of the things, even as a principal in schools, I found myself often doing.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, like I saw loads of tutor groups and things like that, and I thought, well, I don't want to do tutoring. I used to do teach physics and science. I thought, I don't want to do that. But one thing that all kids need is to know how to become a good learner. We went through, there was the learning to learn movement in the 90s, and that, that sort of really changed education. So I thought, well, I'll become a learner, a learning coach. Now, I've got a friend who's a real coach, and I know I'm not a real coach, as in I'm not, I haven't got letters after my name or anything like that. But I called it coaching because I couldn't think of anything else. It was my style of teaching, where I drag it out of kids, and I get, what are you going to do about it? And what are you going to do next? And what do you know already about it? And things like that. So, so lots and lots of questions. And so I thought, well, I created a process whereby I would help young people to understand themselves in terms of the shared human characteristics that we have. If you were in an international baccalaureate school, they would call them the learner attributes.
Okay.
In other schools, they call them the characteristics, and so it's like, so for example, curiosity, communication, being able to reflect, and make wise choices, and those sorts of things. Now, without me really knowing this, what I've been doing, and what a lot of teachers do, is develop these things in children implicitly. So a good teacher, you forget what they're teaching in the lessons, but you actually learn loads of stuff from them, because they know how to help you to get along with each other and to collaborate with each other, or to do things independently, or to be confident and to be independent, And so my thing is, well, how about if we make that explicit and make the purpose of school, I'm going to go to school to develop myself in the context of these wonderful subjects and things like that, and exams, all right, later on. But if I become a good learner, and I'm learner literate, so if I can understand myself, the old thing of knowing yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. And then other people. Yeah. Everything starts with...
If you can know yourself and you've got a language around it, once you've got a language around it, you can start to change it. You can start to be more in control of it. And so, you go to kids and say to them, are you curious? And they say, well, what about? And say, okay, well, what about? When are you curious and when are you not curious? And why is there a difference? Can you nurture your curiosity? And they'd say, well, I don't know. How? Oh, well, how do you think? And you'd sit there for ages and ages, and then you realize, we could Google it, couldn't we? How do I nurture my curiosity? And they Google it, and they find, of course, a million things out there. And for every one of these learner attributes, these traits, there's a book about it.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and it's all written by people my age and younger now, but usually people who've gone into business realize that the one key thing that you've got to have is, collaboration or empathy or something like that. And they've written a book on it, and they've become successful because they've managed, or they've realized that's the thing you've got to have. You've got to have, and they're all lined up there in the business section or the self-help section of your bookshop, if they still exist. It's scary. They've got all these old people saying these are the things, and you've got all these young people at school not learning them.
Wow. No, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. I have a question for you. Let's just say hi to everyone who's joining. Hi, Mohammed. He says interesting. And hi, Huyen. I hope I'm right. Yeah. She says hi, Jasmine. And hi, everybody else who's joining. And please, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We'll be happy to answer those. And Etienne, hello, Robert. It's my pleasure to... Sorry, I'm not pronouncing his name right. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. But no, it's really interesting because I know you've got so much experience, 30 years working internationally. And you mentioned that there were the thing that interests you the most were the similarities. How is that connected to what you came up with in your coaching in the classroom?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. And I had an image of this. I knew about it, but I actually saw it in print one day so in my last school, we were looking at Cambridge International Education products and courses and that. Okay, they're trying their best anyway, but we were looking at those, and it said there, Cambridge International Education has worked all around the world, and in every school we have found that there are these 3 important goals, and they put it down. Academic excellence. Number 2, helping young people reach their potential. Number 3, teaching them the things that they're going to need in life. Okay, and I I just looked at that and I thought, you're absolutely right, but you're doing it in the wrong way. And even the way, like today, I was teaching a boy. I coach one student. He's a Muslim student, okay, and he'd cut and pasted something in, and it said, why is it interesting to go to Jordan for a holiday? And and it said, because the answer he'd copied said, because there are many sites in Jordan which are in the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. Okay. And I said to him, that's a funny order of books. Who do you think wrote that? And we realized, it was probably a Christian writer putting the Bible first because they thought that was important. If it had been somebody else, they'd put the other thing. So we sometimes put the things we think are important first. Academic excellence.
Yes.
All right. So what I did is I flipped that around and said, how about if school was a place where you learn the things you need for life, to be curious, to be able to work with other people, to be compassionate, have empathy, and caring enough to get to the bottom of things. Caring, obviously, people think it's a bit fluffy, but it isn't. It's where determination comes from. And I call those last three heart-mindedness. Being anti-fragile rather than just resilient, so coming back as much as you can stronger. If you develop those things there and you get children to the point where they can begin to develop these things for themselves, then you give them the opportunities, encouragement, scaffolding to reach their potential, their current potential. What's the best you can do? How can you do this better? And so every now and then, not for everything, but every now and then, you get the children to do something to the best of their ability, and you spend time on getting that to be the best. And that's quite a well-known thing that happens in schools. When I've managed to do this in schools, by the time they get to exams, they eat up those exam courses. And of course, even from a young age, you can do it in the context of academic excellence, right? Academic excellence doesn't, I'm not saying ditch.
No.
Yeah? What I'm saying is, so out of this came an approach framework. So because, a lot of the people who we just saw who were joining, they're from very different schools and very different systems.
Yes.
How can we reach them? How can we help them? Well, you can't go and change the national curriculum of a country. I can't, do that.
No.
They're stuck with what they've got. And so, for example, I went to Iran at one point, and I worked with an experimental group of schools, and they were able to work these things into the system that they'd got.
Amazing.
It's a very content-heavy, teacher-centered system, but they managed to do it to a certain extent. So an approach framework is like, how do we approach the courses we're going to do? How do we approach a Cambridge course or the IB course or the national curriculum course?
I completely agree. I really, I 100% agree with everything you're saying. It's all about, it's not necessarily the curriculum, because like you said, sometimes the curriculum is quite rigid and it cannot be changed, but it's how you approach it and the delivery. It's the delivery, isn't it?
Well, yes, delivery. Yes, that's an interesting word. So,
okay. Tell me.
Delivery is what? You've got someone who comes along and delivers it?
Teachers, coaches, but you could have the same lesson plan and the same curriculum for like 1 hour, and 2 different teachers, and it's a whole different experience, because one teacher maybe has coaching skills and the other one doesn't. So that it's more learner centered, it's more curiosity driven, powerful questions. So the students will have a completely different experience because the delivery is more of a coaching one.
Actually, delivery isn't the word that I've really bothered about. Actually, it's what is it? Providing an education. What do schools do? They provide an education.
Okay.
And I say, no, they don't. They provide an opportunity. They provide, their job is to provide learning opportunities.
Wow, that's it. Yeah.
And then the kids' job is to, and the teachers' jobs are to identify or create opportunities for learner development.
Wow. Yeah.
So the teacher, so I've worked with teachers to be able to get them to look at their classroom and say, like, how are you developing curiosity in this classroom?
Amazing.
Okay, well, I do this and that. Yes, you do. Or they say, I don't know. And then I say, well, look, you're doing this. And actually, you're doing it. It's really good. And they go, oh, really? Am I doing it? And then you say, right, what could you change? A small change in order to further develop the kids' curiosity. What do they think? How could they? Because, like, kids are the biggest resource that is ignored and unused by schools, you know. So you get the kids working, their job is to identify and create opportunities for learner development in the classroom and out of the classroom. So it's very powerful, but of course, you know, like all little ideas, it's easy to die. It's easy to not grow. So that's what I've been working on. How do we implement this into schools in any conditions? And it's amazing because it solves so many of schools, of education's problems. It's we don't have time to go into the problems it solves, but, you know, like in countries where teachers are paid so little that it's not the job you want to really go into, and people go into that job because it's the last thing that, you know, their last choice, or they're waiting to get married, or, you know, and they don't really want to be doing it. This revives that. Yes, this revives that to some extent. It's very powerful.
Right, we'll hold that because I want to hear more about that. Let's just, Vikas, is it Vikas? Hi, Vikas. He says, what do schools in HCMC look for in a physics teacher primarily, apart from academic certifications, obviously?
Well, I think actually that guest we had, Dr. Huyn, she would know that. But HCMC, Ho Chi Minh City. And I was and so I was a physics teacher once, not in Ho Chi Minh City, but what do they look for? Well, it depends what sort of school you're going to. So if you go to, I think in Vietnam, it's becoming far more Cambridge based. And so therefore, the problem with a curriculum like Cambridge is that it allows you to teach in a teacher-centered way. Okay, so it allows you to teach the curriculum. These are the things you've got to learn. Here is the exam you've got to take. Okay, so by default, you're sort of dragged into that. You know, I'm going to stand at the front and tell everybody everything. Whereas, you know, something like the IB or the IPC, International Curriculum Project, ICP. Those more modern ones, they try to get the teacher not to do that, you know. So, but yeah, what do you want in I don't know.
I'm going to coach you, Vikas.
Yes, Vikas, get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with somebody who really knows that.
And it's good. I like it because you've answered his question with a question, and that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? It's not about dictating and telling everybody. It's about coaching.
How to be a good teacher? First of all, invest your time on developing a good relationship with your kids.
Oh, wow.
How to be a good parent? The same thing, you know.
Yes. In fact, that is the answer to probably most.
Yes. How to be a good school leader. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Building
As we,
relationships,
yeah.
respect and kindness, which I think, I don't know about you, but because I've traveled and worked in many countries as well. And for me, like, I didn't learn the language in every country, but respect and kindness is what got me through everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And what about you, actually? Let me just ask you before we look at.
I don't know. Well, I'm just very open, and I just when I go
Open.
somewhere,
Yeah,
I just treat people as people, and
yeah, yeah,
for some reason that seems to work.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, today I was walking along the beach, and there's the cleaner there, and I say good morning to the cleaner, and we have a laugh sometimes, and
Right.
and things like that, and
Yeah.
just be able
Simple
to
thing.
laugh with people as well.
That's, yeah, a lot of sense of humour. And Etienne says it's a very good subject, transforming education, but I don't speak English well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And Mohammed says yes. But so going back to what you were saying about these fundamental tools that you use in teaching. So tell us more about those, and yeah, what makes a good teacher. So for teachers who are watching and thinking, I
Right.
don't know how to start, I'm having a difficult time with my students, it's overwhelming, I'm stressed, I don't know how to get through to my students, like, what would you, simple things,
Ooh,
help?
that's difficult because
I know.
it's really strange because so I did my first year having trained in England. I did my first year in a girls' school in Wimbledon in London.
Oh, did you?
I had my bum pinched several times with that. They were very good at it without you could. I mean, I was young then, so and, and they were very good at not letting you see who it was. It was very anyway. So and it was funny because I'd done my teaching practice in an all boys school, and then I did have this
Oh,
all
wow.
girls school, and I noticed quite early on that there were same characters appeared in both classes. Both in all the classes. You got the big tough person, and you've got the little person, and you've got the silent person. You got all the same characters. So anyway,
Yeah.
so knowing the kids is really good. Knowing that there are certain tricks like as you're turning to write something or put something on the wall or do something, you notice something. All right, you notice something, and you turn, and you wait for a second, and you tell them what they're doing. You say, "Why are you doing that?" And they think, "Oh, how does he see without
Yeah.
looking at me?" I mean, there's funny little things like that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
mostly it's being on. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work mostly with teenagers, and with teenagers it's really easy because they're
Yes.
still kids and they still laugh at funny things, but they also are nearly adults, and so you can treat them like adults
Yeah. Yeah.
in a way. I mean, it depends how you treat adults, of course, but if you treat adults in the way I treat adults,
I
then it's
completely
okay.
agree.
Yeah. So you say, well, so why aren't you doing that? I'm doing it. Why aren't you doing it? Why? You know, and you have to try to form a community. So actually, there's one thing. There is a formula to this, and can't remember his name. Learning community, learning organizations. Senge, Peter Senge, a long
Okay.
time ago. Learning organizations. From that, I sort of fiddle around with it, and uh, trust. So developing trust, effective communication, effective
Yeah.
collaboration. When you've
Yeah.
got those things, then you've got
Yeah.
the materials
Foundation.
to come up with a shared vision. Now, people say, "Oh, shared vision, shared vision." What I'm talking about is really deep down. So, if you're in my class, what is our vision? What's our mission? What's your role in us achieving that? So my classes, we don't compete except inside ourselves. We help each other to pass classes. And I've taught physics at high school level and pulled in kids who hate science rather than chuck them into biology, which is horrible now because it's all full of chemistry. I bring them into my maths classes. I used to bring them into my maths classes, and they would pass. They would, they'd get through the course. They wouldn't do really well, perhaps, but they'd pass because they're relaxed. They know, I treat them like they can pass. And they become, they begin to realize what school is for. It's not me giving them something, it's them taking something.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Exactly. And that's right. Oh my Lord, we're running out of time, but we could talk forever. I know we could. So Mohammed says, as a fresher with limited work experience, but a strong desire to start my own business, what key skills and knowledge should I focus on developing to increase my chances of success? Are there specific resources or strategies you would recommend for someone in my position? I'm not sure if that's connected to.
No, that's fine. Because what I've done is I've set up an NGO, but I've also registered a business, and it was really difficult for me to do that. Now I'm hoping it. Sorry, didn't catch the name.
Mohammed.
So Mohammed, perhaps in where you are, it's easier to set up a business. And anyway, so what I set out to do, being the cheapskate I am, I set out to do it with spending as little money as possible. And so I think it cost me something like $5 in Georgia to register a non-profit organization.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It would have cost me, I think, £12 to do it in England. But because I live in Turkey, I have to hire an address in England. So I've got an office in England. It's just a post box. It's legal. And that cost me £60 a year or something like that. And then, you've got your website. You have to pay a little bit for that. But you can actually do these things for quite low prices.
Amazing.
Know your product, believe in it, know your audience, look at your, I mean, there's so much stuff out there, Mohammed, that you can read, that I've just read it, basically, so it would be better if you read it. And if you want to contact me about setting up your own business, because that's one of the things I'm planning to help people to do.
Amazing.
To help them set up their own sort of coaching thing, like me.
And Mohammed said that's inspiring. So Mohammed, yes, please feel free to reach out to Robert. That's
do get in contact.
I might reach out as well.
Yeah, why not? No, I mean, your stuff is amazing. God.
Oh, thank you so much. And Vika says, how could student-centered methodology be incorporated in Cambridge curriculum, especially in STEM? As I've seen, there are many students in every class who probably lack even the basics of, say, physics and maths. Yeah,
I mean, it depends how damaged the children are. I think school as it is, and it depends what sort of school it is, but many schools damage children unwittingly. In fact, for every one of those I think for every one of the International Baccalaureate learner profile attributes, which there are 10, which are, things like curious inquirer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have an anti, I've defined an anti attribute. How you can, so caring and uncaring, or being too over caring.
Yeah.
So like people who are over caring with their children, teachers who are over caring and don't trust the kids to do things.
Yeah.
Right. So school is about building responsibility, helping the kids to become responsible for it, and then supporting them to be responsible. Okay. Yeah. So if they don't have the maths and physics background, you need to know your course really well so that you can define the key things that is going to be able to get them through. Like with physics, for example, the graphs and the being able to manipulate an equation, and there's something else I can't remember, logarithms or something.
Yeah.
If you know those things, they're good for maths, and you work with the maths teacher, all right, and you say, look, kids, it's not that bad. You just have to know these 3 things, and then like that.
Oh, brilliant. No, thank you so much. Yes, we're going to have to do another live because there's just so many more things I need to ask you. But is there anything else you would like to say before we go? And how can people find?
Yeah, sure. One of the things I haven't talked about is, so this idea of coaching. So I'm I coach individual kids one-to-one.
Yes.
In developing learners, developing as learners, and through a project that they're interested in, and we create a portfolio. Portfolio is very important.
Okay.
That coaching came from the classroom, from my class practice, and so it's going back into that because I'm designing a course for teachers to use these approaches in their classroom. So if you want, you can join one of my courses at very low price. And then for parents, how can parents deal with that at home? And then for coaches, how can you become a coach like
Amazing.
this? And then I've got someone from someone is now saying to me, Robert, can you introduce this to a country?
Can you put all of those links and everything on the LinkedIn post to our lives so people can just click and find out more from you? But thank you so much, Robert, and thank you everybody else for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned a lot from you today, and yeah, I'm looking forward to speaking again. Thank you everybody else, and see you next week.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, everyone.